All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am here today with Commissioner Harrison and Director Jackson, and we are here today to talk about an important step forward in our ongoing work to transform our police department into a world-class 21st century law enforcement agency. Some of you may have heard me mention this in my State of the City address, but in the FY23 budget, we are creating 35 civilian positions in our police department to support, I'm going to say that again, support our sworn officers. And I want to be very clear, these civilian positions are not taking the jobs of sworn officers. They're replacing long vacant positions in our department and will help us better address the existing staffing shortages that we face. These positions will augment the current detective force, allowing for civilian investigators to manage low-level property crimes, cold cases, background checks, intelligence gathering, and internal affairs matters. This will make BPD one of the first agencies in the nation to introduce this investigative specialist classification, setting a standard for staffing allocations in law enforcement agencies across the country. This will free up our sworn detectives to better meet the needs of our residents by being out on our streets, deterring and solving crimes. Additionally, this is going to allow us to tap into previously unexplored but qualified personnel resources that can go through the hiring process in a more timely manner. We want to ensure that our police resources are being used effectively and constitutionally focused where we need them in Baltimore City. This is a change that our residents have told us they want to see with that focus, and something that will help us move closer toward building a safer future for Baltimore and also helping us come into compliance with state law around civilianization. And thank you, and with that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Harrison.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank all of you for being here today. In addition to Director Jackson, I am also joined by my Chief of Staff, Eric Melanson. And we're here to talk about the next initiative in the Mayor's Reimagining Policing in Baltimore plan, civilianization. With this initiative, the Baltimore Police Department would become, as you heard the Mayor say, one of the first major law enforcement agencies in our country to create civilian detective classifications. These investigative specialists would be used broadly throughout the agency, and they have the potential to serve as a national model for how law enforcement agencies build capacity on a parallel path to sworn officers. Our civilian members play a vital role in making our department a world-class agency. The work they perform on a daily basis maximizes the capacity and effectiveness of our sworn personnel. BPD is updating its long-term staffing strategy in order to confront recruitment and retention challenges, the same challenges that departments across the country are facing. We must do more, and we must do it differently. Our civilianization proposal includes, as you've heard, 35 new investigative specialists to be hired by the end of this year, with more than 135 additional positions identified in future years. 9 civilian positions dedicated to support the Mayor's group violence reduction strategy, 12 new civilian support positions to enhance capacity at the telephone reporting unit, and restoring some civilian positions that we cut from our 2021 budget. Our new civilian investigators will focus on low-level crimes, cold cases, cold case reviews, internal affairs cases, background investigations, and intelligence gathering efforts. We are aligning our staffing plan and our budget resources to bring qualified professional staff to work alongside our officers to prevent, deter, and reduce crime effectively. This plan is not about taking away jobs from sworn members of our department. As a matter of fact, BPD will not be replacing any active detectives or investigators, only filling vacancies. This is an enhancement. It is not a cut. So make no mistake, we are not only focusing on civilianization. With the support of the Mayor, we negotiated a new agreement with our Fraternal Order of Police to make the starting salary of police officers above $60,000 per year, the highest in the state of Maryland. Combined with our new enhanced educational incentives, patrol incentives, and a renewed recruitment campaign, we are making smart investments that will set BPD apart as the most attractive choice in America to become a new police officer. Our civilianization plan is about growing the department and creating additional civilian capacity while being smart about how we deploy our officers. We anticipate these civilian positions will be ready to post at the end of May, and we encourage any applicants to receive the postings when they become available at the baltimorepolice.org/careers. For those interested in sworn careers, please visit bpdrecruiting.org and become a part of the greatest comeback story in America. Thank you, and at this time, we'll take a few questions. It's just for media, for media.
Come up to the mic. Do you want to ask a question?
Media questions?
Hello, Commissioner. Can you talk a little bit about the type of candidates that you're hoping for this? Is this like college educated people with like forensic backgrounds?
Well,
science?
we're hoping for people who have investigative skills, perhaps people who have participated in conducting investigations, whether they are familiar with law enforcement or other private investigations. Those persons who we can feel confident can conduct investigations to supplement and support sworn members who are currently conducting those investigations.
And do you guys have a salary range yet for these positions?
So aligned with our current structure, it's about a $49,000 starting salary is what we're looking at for these positions as civilian investigators.
Okay. And one more question. Can you sort of talk about the vetting process? Obviously, hiring officers, there's a lot of background checks.
Well, it's like hiring, it's not exactly like hiring sworn police officers, but there is a vetting process. There are background investigations. And so it allows us to hire individuals at a much faster pace without compromising quality.
What type of training will they get?
So there'll be basic training to make sure they are fundamentally prepared with our policies, fundamentally prepared with state and local law, and just basic investigative techniques, tactics, and protocols that we think are common among investigators and advanced investigators.
Would the plan be to make them police officers eventually?
There's a possibility that some could transition to go to our academy should they want to be police officers, but they'll be handling code cases, reviews of code cases, background checks for other hiring in the recruitment, and other investigative functions to support the detectives who are already doing that work. They could be in districts, they could work in our telephone, some of them will be in our telephone reporting unit to take reports, to work with telephone reporting and online reporting to facilitate those functions. And so it supplements that. It's not taking away any positions, but it's adding capacity to what already exists.
And you said there were 100 and some positions you were looking at. What are you looking at with them?
All right.
So in reviewing the staffing plan assumptions overall, there was about 170 different positions previously thought that we would use sworn officers for. They run everything from our Public Integrity Bureau doing background on internal affairs cases, audits and inspections in our compliance unit, body-worn camera review. It's a host of our district detective units, which will create these sworn and civilian hybridized units. Everything from homicide cold cases, sex crimes cold cases. So we really wanted to make sure we were being as expansive as possible in how we utilize these positions and really focusing in on how we can maximize capacity in investigations to improve our clearance rates, which again, once we are able to improve our clearance rates, that has a dramatic impact on reducing crime overall in the city. So that's our approach here.
Thank you.
Hello. He just touched on it a little bit, but my overall question was, how much do you really feel this will help reduce crime in the city, and then how so?
Well, I think it helps us with two things. It helps us with speed, it helps us with frequency. We can get to cases faster, and we can take on more cases at the same time by adding this capacity. We don't want to reduce or compromise quality. We want to make sure they're conducting quality investigations, but to take on more investigations and to do them faster, and speed and frequency helps us to arrive at deterring crime. It helps us arrive at apprehending people who commit crime and holding them accountable, all of which are things that lead to consequences that helps us overall change the culture of violence in our city.
Do you
So
feel
it's all
that-
about increasing our capacity to do more faster.
And just to add, Alexa,
Yes, sir.
again, this is about allowing our sworn folks to be focused on what our residents want them to be focused on, and that's the violence that's happening in the city. When you're allowing civilians to do a lot of the administrative and other functions, we can then focus our wonderful sworn folks out on the streets of Baltimore, which we know will have an impact. Sorry.
So you all feel this will help in the immediate, addressing crime in the immediate?
Well, once these folks are hired, immediately, yes. We know that every time you're able to take a report faster, every time you're able to put another officer, sworn officer, out on the streets, that has an impact. This is about a total and complete support of every aspect of making sure that our police department is better.
And my last question is another overall. I hear the points you all are touching on, but just overall, the $10 million for the community ecosystem, violence prevention, and then this, why not just hire more officers? What would be your main message, your response to that?
So we are hiring more officers. It would be great if you guys actually showed up for graduation. So we do that consistently.
We were there last
We
time.
have academy classes in right now. The commissioner and I just greeted one. We're one of a few, and I'm going to say this to you again, Alexa, we're one of a few big city police departments in the country that are hiring police officers right now. This is a both-and approach. We're going to continue to hire and recruit for police. We're going to continue to invest in the CVI ecosystem. We're going to continue to do everything that we know will have an impact on violence.
Hey, good afternoon. I just thought of something standing in line. Is this a path to being a full-fledged detective? And could the salaries and expenses be handled by the existing budget? And finally, is recruitment for these positions going to be easier to fill than sworn officers?
Well, this is, first of all, there's no budget increase. This is cost neutral, there's no budget increase. Secondly, this very well could be a path to the conversion of civilian investigators to sworn police, but this is an opportunity to bring on civilian investigators in addition to the robust recruitment strategy and hiring of police that we are currently doing. We've never stopped, and it's always ongoing. But this is about building that capacity. And so it doesn't cost us anything extra. It's about being smart. It's about being creative. It's about the best utilization of our sworn resources, keeping them doing exactly what we want them to do, and then backfilling the vacancies and adding capacity where needed.
And also, you may have touched on this. Is this you said the first in the country? So is this program is not modeled after anything?
Well, I know for a fact that my dear friend, the chief in Phoenix, is doing this. It is right now looking to be very successful, but very few departments across the country are using this model. We are probably the first two. They've announced it, but they haven't yet started, I don't believe, hiring for it just yet. We are rolling this out as a new initiative that we want to do, and we're going to be a model in America. And by being bold, by being innovative, this does not mean that we're slowing down recruiting. We're still recruiting very robustly to bring on the best and brightest in America, but we're competing against 18,000 police departments and law enforcement agencies in America for a qualified group of applicants that make up only 2 to 3% of all applicants, and we're all competing for that 3%.
And could you tell us a little bit of background on how you came to this idea?
Well, working with the mayor's office, we're working and thinking and strategizing about how to be smart and looking at what we think can work. And we took 30 sworn positions and converted them and are converting them to civilian positions, which would actually equate to 35 civilian positions. And the law has changed where we can now allow civilian positions to conduct those investigations, where at one time in the recent past we could not, but now we can. And so now we want to tap into every available opportunity, of which this is one great opportunity. And we believe there are persons out there who may not at the moment want to be police officers, but certainly would love being a civilian investigator.
And just to To add to that, Dave, this is actually something for me that I've been working on for many years. As a council representative, I worked with Senator Antonio Hayes as we have been seeing really the disproportionate nature that BPD was in, where so few of their employees were civilian in comparison to like police departments around the country. And now we know that we have to come in compliance with a law that has to have us be 80-20. This helps with that. This helps again with our mission to free up our police officers, our sworn officers, to be focused on violence and not continuously focused in paperwork or low petty things that we know our residents want them to be focused on, the direct opposite of. This is about us evolving as well. Thank you.
Again, when would you guys start actually hiring, and when would these folks start actually working?
We will be announcing very shortly. We believe we can probably begin taking applications, processing them, and having people early summer.
Okay. Commissioner, just shifting gears slightly, I just had a question about the fire, for both investigations, as far as the young child and her mother who was killed. Can you provide any new updates on that investigation?
The only thing that I can provide is we have confirmation that the person found on I-95 is the biological parent of the infant, or the child rather, that was found on Vancouver. We are conducting that investigation, and the state police is conducting the one with the body found on I-95. We're working together on the two to determine connectivity.
Okay, so no information yet on
There's no new
suspects.
update on circumstances.
Okay, and as far as the fire that from January, in which the 3 firefighters were killed?
That's an investigation we're working alongside, but following the lead of the ATF, who's leading that investigation. And so any questions about specifics have to be directed to the ATF.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to, for some of the people out there, just want to be clear. These new the civil servants will be in-house. They won't be out in the street or anything like that, right?
They will be investigators, so they are not patrol officers, not in uniform, not in marked police cars. They will be civilian investigators. There may be opportunities and chances where they will have to go out into the field to interview people, maybe to ask questions or to gather evidence, but they will not be patrol officers or officers out there arresting people on the streets of Baltimore. They are investigators or detectives, if you will.
Is there any concern that even if they're not sworn officers, that if they go out to investigate, do some investigating, asking questions, that some of the people won't respect what they're trying to do? Any concerns about that?
Well, we don't have any concerns about that because we have protocols, number one, to provide for their safety. We have protocols to provide for making sure people are aware of who they are and the authority they possess, and there are internal mechanisms that we are building to make sure that if they should have to go out, that they're accompanied by people who are recognized as BPD sworn detectives or officers.
Thank you.
Thank you.